slowly advances. Reinus shoots his fireball, but it seems to have no effect. He keeps attacking, using all his different elements, but Kyle is unfazed by the attacks, and continues to move forward. Seika thinks he must be using gravity magic, just like Mabel. Reinus starts to get desperate, and summons an army of golems to defend himself. But Kyle uses shadow magic, and destroys all of the golems in an instant. Reinus charges at him, but he is stopped as Kyle binds him with his shadow. As Kyle goes to finish him off, the refs call the fight, and Kyle is declared the winner, advancing to the finals. At night, Seika thinks about going back to the academy after the finals, and Yuki reminds him not to win. As he tries to sleep, Yuki suddenly transforms, saying she wants to sleep with him. Seika says they sleep together all the time, but Yuki says it has been ages since she took her human form. Seika gets a feeling, and notices Mabel on the roof, thanks to his Shikigami. He jumps on Yuki, making her happy, but there is an explosion, and Mabel makes her entrance. Seika prepares for a fight, and Mabel throws her knives at him. She tackles him out of the window, but he manages to back away from her. He tries to bind her with his vine spell, but Mabel is able to defend herself. She charges at him, but Seika gets away using his body double talisman. Seika manages to hold her off, and he tries to talk to her. Mabel finds it strange he wants to talk after she just attacked him, but Seika can tell that she wasn't trying to kill him. She reveals she was just trying to break some of his bones so he would have to drop out of their fight. She is determined to get to the finals, and asks him to withdraw once again. Seika reveals that he knows she is a stand-in for Amu, suggesting that her mission is to win the tournament posing as the hero to draw the attention of the devils. Mabel is surprised at how much he knows, but reveals that his information is off, revealing that her mission isn't to win the tournament, but it's to be killed by Kyle, so that the devils will think that the hero died. She reveals that both she and Kyle were trained by the Legrock merchants. The Legrock merchants take talented slave children and train them to become soldiers. She mentions that the merchants are testing Kyle to see if he has become a real soldier. Seika is curious about what she means, and Mabel reveals that when the merchants make a soldier, they do an operation where they open up the skull and engrave magic on the brain, causing the soldier to no longer feel any fear or doubt, making them perfectly obedient. The merchants train children in groups of 4, living and training together. They are taught to rely and encourage each other. But eventually, only one is chosen to undergo the operation, and they are then tasked with killing their 3 friends as a final test to becoming a soldier. Since she was disposable, they decided to use her in this mission to deceive the devils, and she reveals that she is the final person that Kyle needs to kill. Although her mission is to die, Mabel plans to make it to the finals so that she can kill Kyle. She says that Kyle killed her brother, so she wants to get revenge. However, Seika sees through her lie, guessing that Kyle is actually her brother. He can tell that her hair is dyed, and that she has the same eyes as him. Seeing that he figured it out, Mabel says that before her brother's operation, he told her that if he became a different person after his surgery, then he wanted her to put him to rest. She can no longer recognize him as her brother, because her brother would never just kill without reason, so she plans to follow his instruction and put him to rest. Seika wonders if she can even beat him, but Mabel is determined to try no matter what, since she is probably going to end up dead regardless of the result, because the merchants would dispose of her. After hearing all of this, Seika decides that he will be the one to get to the finals and defeat Kyle. Mabel is surprised to hear this, and Seika says that she doesn't need to be the one to beat Kyle. Mabel says that it's already too late for her, suggesting that he doesn't understand because they are from different worlds. She has no idea what she would do, but Seika tells her she can just go back to the academy. She knows that the merchants would never allow that, but Seika promises that he can protect her. Mabel doesn't believe him, but Seika claims that he is the strongest there is. He suggests that if her brother had a final request, he would want his sister to be able to be free. Mabel thanks him, but swears to go all out to win against him. The next day, it's time for their semi-final match. Mabel wields a gigantic battle axe in this round, saying that she is done pretending to be the hero. Seika is excited to see her real power, but Mabel calls him a noble brat, saying he has no chance. The fight begins, and Mabel goes on the offensive. She slashes through the rubble, attacking Seika, but Seika avoids it thanks to his talisman. Seika is impressed at her speed, thinking she must use gravity magic to lighten her axe. He blasts her with some stones, but she swings out of the way. She throws daggers, infused with her gravity magic, but Seika easily blocks it. He counterattacks using his vines, but Mabel breaks free. However, her axe becomes too heavy, as Seika mentions he made it 1,000 times heavier. He attacks with vines once again, but this time they are infused with mercury, making them much stronger. He grabs her axe, but Mabel tells him he won't be able to even lift it. But using one of his talismans, he makes it lighter and holds it up to her. The match is called, and Seika is declared the winner. Seika reassures her and tells her to leave Kyle to him. The finals are up next, and the fighters take their positions. Seika apologizes for disrupting their plans, but Kyle is just glad Mabel is alive so he can kill her later. Seika tries reasoning with him, but Kyle tells him to mind his own business. Their fight begins, but before Kyle can activate his eye, Seika summons a red mist that completely covers the field. Seika attacks with his flames, but it has no effect thanks to Kyle's gravity magic. Seika switches his tactic, summoning his mercury vines to restrain Kyle, but he is able to break free using his shadow magic. Kyle continues to approach, but Seika summons a gate, bringing forth a minotaur. Kyle attacks with his shadow, but it has no effect on the beast. The minotaur bats him away, and Seika suggests that if he could feel fear, he probably wouldn't have picked such a reckless fight. Seika plans to let him live, but he is suddenly afflicted by a curse. Seika sets up his barrier to block the curse, and the markings fade. However, he already took too much damage, and he coughs out blood. Kyle grabs onto him and passes on his final message for Mabel. Annoyed that he lost to a curse, he refuses to lose. He activates his technique and prepares to bring Kyle back from the dead. Yuki begs him to stop, saying the technique will draw too much attention, reminding him how things ended for him in his previous life, and Seika ends up canceling his technique. After the match was over, Kyle is gone, but Seika explains that he completely vaporized him, and the officials believe him. He is declared the winner of the tournament, and he gets to keep the prize money. He had hid Kyle's body in his void, so he could let Mabel give him a proper burial. Mabel thanks him for his help, and Seika passes on Kyle's final message. He apologizes for breaking her clover, and we see that as kids, she had a hairpin that she loved, but he accidentally broke it. Mabel cries at the memory, and she says goodbye to her brother. Mabel wonders what will happen to her now, but Seika assures her she can just go back to the academy, and he will handle the rest. They explain everything to Amu and Aoife, although Seika leaves out the part about Mabel posing as the hero. Amu stops Mabel and demands a rematch, but Mabel isn't in the mood. However, Amu insists. They start their duel, but this time Amu uses magic, cutting right through Mabel's sword. She reveals that she can also use gravity magic now, and tells her not to underestimate her. She says they are now even, and she is glad to have another sparring partner. Mabel is a bit confused, but they end up deciding to get along. They head back to the academy, and Seika meets with the principal. He reveals that he figured out their plan of using Mabel, but the principal reveals that she sent him to the tournament in order to save her. She pitied her, seeing how talented she was, so she came up with a way to make her lose without dying. She calls Seika her trump card, but Seika wonders what she would have done if he had lost. She says she has been around for a long time, and has a way of telling how strong someone is. Seika wonders just how old she is, but she calls him rude. However, she says that she stopped counting after she turned 300. The principal guarantees Mabel's safety at the academy, but tells him to show her the ropes, since this is a completely different life for her. Later on, Seika meets up with the crew, and Mabel has changed her hair back to its original color. Mabel tries to sneak away, but Seika calls her out. Mabel finds him too strict as a tutor, but Seika tells her she needs to study because she hasn't been able to pass the entrance exam. Mabel is in tears, and she begs Aoife for help. But Aoife says that Seika is actually going easy on her, and this leaves her stunned. Summer break approaches, and Alma wonders how the others will be spending it. Seika says that he has been requested to investigate dragons in the country of Astelia. His father had been requested, but he is too busy, so Seika is being sent instead. Amu asks to tag along, but Seika reminds her that her parents are expecting her. Mabel says she has no plans, and also asks to join, but Seika tells her she needs to catch up on her studies. He asks Aoife to join him, and she quickly agrees. There are suddenly two people that enter the hall. They come up to Seika and introduce themselves as Cecilio, the first prince of Astelia, and his elven attendant Liz. Seika exchanges greetings, but Cecilio is soon drawn to Aoife. He immediately asks her to join his harem and become one of his wives. They are all shocked, and Aoife explains that she is Seika's servant. The prince asks to buy Aoife at a high price, and Seika is left stunned. Liz tells Cecilio he is making a scene, so they move to a private room to discuss. They start talking about the dragon investigation. According to the legends, the dragon was originally hatched from an egg by the royal family. Cecilio explains that the dragon is said to have lived alongside humans for over a century, but recently, it started to act strange, attacking fields and even livestock, so Cecilio tells Seika to look into what is going on. He then turns his attention to Aoife, but Liz reminds him to behave. After the meeting, Seika gets ambushed by Amu and Mabel, who want to know what is going on. They are worried about Aoife being handed over to the prince, but Seika thinks it could be a good opportunity for her if she is interested. They tell him that there is no way she would want that, and that he shouldn't even bring it up to her. But Seika is confused about this, not wanting to deny her this opportunity. 2 days later, he and Aoife join the prince's caravan to Astelia, and Seika struggles on the ride. They talk about how they will get to see a real dragon, and Aoife mentions how the prince asked her to ride with him. She thinks he was just joking about her joining his harem, but seems a little flattered by it. 9 days later, they reach the capital of Astelia. They find the surrounding quite beautiful, but Cecilio mentions that the dragon has caused the people to live in fear, and trade has become difficult. The dragon flies overhead, and Seika notes the size of it. The dragon suddenly dives down at them, swooping right past them. We hear a spell being chanted, and an impressive lava tiger is summoned. It lunges at the dragon, narrowly missing it, and the dragon flies away. The tiger turns its attention to Aoife and charges at her, but Seika manages to stop it just in time, although the tiger starts to melt the surroundings. Seika rushes over, and he prepares to destroy the tiger, but it is suddenly restrained, and we meet Zek the summoner. He reprimands the tiger for running wild, and returns it back to his book. The prince comes running, and warns Zek that he almost harmed his guests, but Zek says he was just trying to chase off the dragon, saying that it's been getting even closer lately, and has started attacking people. Seika wonders what's his deal, and the prince explains that Zek is the head of some mercenaries that he hired. Zek wonders how a kid like him can help with their problem, and Seika wonders why he hired mercenaries. The prince admits he is trying to hunt the dragon as a way to solve their problem. Seika tells him to reconsider, saying it would be impossible for the lava tiger to actually kill the dragon. Zek says he doesn't know what he is talking about, claiming to have killed a number of dragons in the past. The two start to get heated, but the prince breaks them up. He sends Zek away, and reprimands Seika for provoking him. Seika apologizes, saying he lost his temper because Aoife was put in danger. He goes on to ask if hunting the dragon has been approved by the queen, since the dragon is the symbol of the country, but Cecilio claims that everything has been left up to his judgment, and he reminds Seika of his place. Seika turns to Aoife and asks why she didn't defend herself with magic, but Aoife says she was scared and froze up. He reprimands her, saying he will not always be around, so she needs to be able to defend herself. He wonders if it was a mistake to bring her, and she starts to tear up. The prince tries to calm him down, saying it's natural to become scared in front of such a creature. Seika says that this is a matter between the two of them, and tells her that if she is not able to fight, then she must at least run or ask for help. As they return to their carriage, Seika feels bad for reprimanding her, but remembers back to a time when one of his friends froze up and ended up eaten by a dragon, so he doesn't want that to happen to Aoife. The next day, they head to the library to find out more on the dragons. Seika finds that something similar happened in the past. A few hundred years ago, the queen hatched the dragon from an egg, and it lived alongside the people. Eventually another dragon arrived in Astelia, and they started living together in the mountains. But after 50 years, the dragons became more hostile, and it was because they had a baby. Aoife wonders what happened to the babies, and they were said to have left the nest after they became adults. After another 50 years, the female dragon died of old age, and this was all 100 years ago. Aoife thinks the situation is different, since it should just be one male dragon, so it can't be about protecting their young. Seika decides it would be best to just go up the mountain to see for himself. Etha thinks it's too risky